Hello, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you are watching this video. After the discussion on the basic definitions and concepts of income tax, including the understanding of key terminology that is useful in the process of learning the income tax law, let us move on to next important topic, that is rates of tax and computation of tax liability. But before moving to that topic, I would like to draw your attention that if you remember the overall process of computation of total income and tax liability, actually the computation of tax liability is the last step. But naturally a question will come, when it is the last step, why are we doing it in the beginning? Actually, what is the first step? Determination of residential status, then heads of income, then clubbing, then set of carry forward, then deductions, then finally when we get total income, on that we have to calculate tax liability. So definitely computation of tax liability in reality is the last step, no doubt about it. However, while learning, we need to understand and build the ability of computation of tax liability at the beginning itself. Of course, question comes, why? Reason is, when we encounter the questions in future in relation to any head of income, just for understanding purposes, let us say after a few days we are going to discuss the topic of salaries, and there is a particular SSC whose salary income we have to determine. We will do that according to the provisions of that head of income. After computing that income from salaries, the question, in fact any question in Income Tax Act can also add another point asking us to calculate tax liability as well. So the questions can be like this: compute income from salaries, and assuming the SSC has no other income, also compute the tax liability. So can we say that we will postpone it till the end? Not possible. That is why, though it is really the last step in reality, as far as learning is concerned, we have to put it in the beginning only, and that is the reason why we are going to discuss rates of tax now itself. And the rates of tax will keep on changing from year to year. The topic of components of income tax law, as we discussed in the earlier chapter, includes annual finance acts, and of course among many other purposes of annual finance act, it also indicates what are the rates of tax applicable for a particular assessment year. And as we are already aware, the assessment year that is applicable to us is assessment year 2020-21, which means the income would have been earned in previous year 2019-20, and the applicable Finance Act for this assessment year will also be Finance Act 2019, not the Finance Act that has been recently introduced. That is not applicable for us. That will be applicable for next assessment year, that is 2021-22. As far as our assessment year 2020-21 is concerned, what rates of tax are applicable as prescribed by Finance Act 2019? That should be kept in mind. And before going to the rates of tax that we are going to really use and compute, let us first of all focus on the chargeability of income, which is mentioned in section 4 of the Income Tax Act. This can be called as charging section, or it can also be called as the basis of charge. Of course, the basis is very simple, which we know already. What is that? Income of previous year is charged to tax in the relevant assessment year. That is the basis of charge. So whatever income earned in previous year is subjected to tax in the relevant assessment year. Then the question comes, what is the rate of tax applicable? Which rate of tax is applicable? That also, as we just now understood, which rate of tax is applicable? As specified by the Annual Finance Act of that year. Such Finance Act is applicable for the purpose of using relevant rates of tax. So we have this first point in relation to section 4, income of previous year is charged to tax in the relevant assessment year. What rate of tax is applicable? The rate of tax is applicable according to the Annual Finance Act of that year. That is the general provision. For us, naturally, the Finance Act applicable will be the Finance Act of 2019. And for us, assessment year is 2020-21 and previous year is 2019-20. These numbers have to be kept in mind, fixed in mind as far as November 2020 examination is concerned. However, in respect of certain incomes, the rates of tax shall be applicable as per Income Tax Act also. And if you remember one of the MCQ questions which was asked in the earlier assignment, one question asks where the rates of tax will be mentioned. Where the rates of tax will be mentioned both in the Finance Act, also in the Income Tax Act. So there are certain rates of tax which are mentioned in Income Tax Act. We can call them special rates, but in general the rates of tax are all mentioned in Annual Finance Act. Just for example, we are not going to use them now. Let us be clear, this table we are not going to use it now. We will use these special rates when such a topic comes in future. What rates we are going to use now are only those which are prescribed by Annual Finance Act. Those are general rates applicable for all types of incomes. There are certain special incomes on which special rates of tax are applicable under different sections. For example, the casual income. Casual income is nothing but something like a income received by chance, winning from lotteries, winning from horse races, playing cards and winning, doing gambling. All these things are called as casual incomes. When we already are talking about playing cards, some of you are thinking, "Arey, it is illegal now to play cards. How can there be an income on that?" We have to go back to the same logic once again. Are we really bothered about whether income is legal or illegal? Do we really care about it? Should we care about it? Answer is no, because as far as Income Tax Act is concerned, it does not bother about the legality of the income. We are not bothered about that. That is none of our business. Is it legal? Is it illegal? Even if we have an answer for that, it has no relevance in income tax. That we should keep in mind. However, On the contrary, there is no necessity that casual income will always be illegal also. Even if it is legal, even if it is illegal, doesn't matter. If there is a casual income, that will be subjected to tax at the rate of 30%. Same way, unexplained incomes. This we already discussed. Unexplained and undisclosed incomes. Under which sections? Section 68, Section 69, Section 69A, 69B, 69C and 69D. All those things are taxable at a rate of 60%. Of course, after adding surcharge and cess, the overall tax rate becomes 78%, but the base rate of tax is 60% on such kind of unexplained or undisclosed incomes. So unexplained or undisclosed incomes, the tax rate is going to be, that is 60%. Casual income, the tax rate is going to be, that is 30%. Now, similarly, dividends received by special people, particularly individuals, let us say, in excess of 10 lakhs rupees is taxable at a rate of, that is 10%. So this is one more rate which is a special rate, and this is not applicable for all, only for dividends if they are received naturally from a company. The word dividend itself is used in the hands of, in relation to a company. Company pays the dividend, shareholders receive the dividend. When the shareholder receives the dividend in excess of 10 lakhs rupees, the amount in excess of 10 lakhs rupees is going to be taxable at the rate of 10%. Same way, we have all these other rates of tax also, which are all applicable. Hence, these type of rates of tax are going to be mentioned in the Income Tax Act. So these things we are not going to apply now. Just as examples, these are all given. So casual income 30%, undisclosed income 60%, dividends 10%, long-term capital gain 20%, long-term capital gain on listed shares in excess of 1 lakh rupees 10%, short-term capital gain on listed shares 15%. There are different sections which are applicable to that also. But having said that, all these things are going to be discussed at the respective heads of income: casual income, unexplained and undisclosed incomes. All these three things, these three items are going to be discussed in the chapter of income from other sources. All three are covered under income from other sources. All these three, the remaining three, the other three are going to be covered under the head of capital gains. So definitely these all items are going to be discussed once again in future when we reach to that respective head of income. However, having said that, you cannot just like that say I will not even remember any of these things because anyway I will have it in future. That is not the way we can learn the income tax always. Wherever possible, we need to keep on knowing the things which again may be in reality used in detail later. Doesn't matter. Still, we need to remember certain things definitely, though they may not be applied now. For example, casual income is taxable at the rate of 30%. We should remember that. We should remember that. That is very important. Other things like dividend in excess of 10 lakhs rupees is taxable at the rate of 10%. We should remember that. Capital gains is a different species altogether. We will discuss particularly about all these capital gains related things at a later stage. That is going to be a special thing. However, these things related to income from other sources, sometimes we might have some application of them. So just remember, generally casual income 30%, undisclosed income 60%, dividends in excess of 10 lakhs 10%. That is general rates of tax applicable as mentioned in Income Tax Act. These are not mentioned in Annual Finance Act. And look at the sections here. All these section numbers are Income Tax Act sections. So all these rates are mentioned in Income Tax Act. And by the way, these are examples only. Don't think these are the only things which are mentioned in Income Tax Act. There are many other things also. When we really reach to that level of requirement of knowing them, then we will definitely come to know about them. So don't give too much of attention to these special rates. As of now, all that we need to know is, yes, there are rates of taxes applicable for a particular assessment year which are mentioned in Annual Finance Act, but we should also know that there are rates of taxes which are also mentioned in Income Tax Act. These are some of the examples of such rates which have been mentioned in Income Tax Act. However, we are not going to apply these rates of tax now. We are going to be applying them later. So what is the purpose of this chapter? The rates of tax means we are talking about the rates of tax as specified by the Annual Finance Act only. Only those rates of tax which are specified in Annual Finance Act are going to be discussed now. And the first one, already we know that income of previous year is subjected to tax in relevant assessment year. And we also know the exceptions. Exceptions are not going to be used everywhere. We just have to know them and leave it. That's all. What about exceptions? What about exceptions? We should not think. Exceptions will be always there. Let them be there. We know them already. Exceptions to this general rule. But normally what rule is followed? Income of previous year is charged in the relevant assessment year. That's all. There is a background understanding in relation to the rates of tax. And now when we have this another point just to be noted, wherever required the tax shall be deducted at source or paid in advance in the previous year itself. Wherever required, that also is not going to be always. Wherever required the tax shall be deducted at source or paid in advance in the previous year itself. Then again, what is this names? At least we should know. Tax deducted at source, we call that TDS, tax deducted at source. Again, are we going to discuss them now? Suddenly today are we going to become experts of TDS provisions? Not possible. That is almost going to be discussed at the end of the understanding of income tax. Same way, advance tax is a separate chapter. So if you remember the chapter names that we were talking about, in those chapter names these two are there. But if you remember the placement of them, they are all coming at the end, almost at the fag end of the learning of income tax process. So right now, once again, what are TDS provisions, what are advance tax provisions, that we cannot know. But at least what we should know, there are some provisions in relation to tax deducted at source, and there are some provisions in relation to advance tax to be paid. So don't be too happy with this provision which says income of previous year is charged tax in the relevant assessment year. Charging of tax is different, payment of tax is different. That is what we can learn from this. Assessment of income is different, making the income tax payment is different. Assessment of income will not happen in previous year. Income earned in previous year will be assessed in next year, that is called assessment year. Does it mean till next year we will not pay any tax? No, that is not correct. So there might be requirements to pay tax in advance. You don't need to know what are those requirements now. We will come to know them when we discuss those advance tax requirements. Same way, tax deducted at source is another concept. Tax deducted at source is a concept where the tax liability of the payee is going to be actually paid by the payer of income. So the point is, before even giving some money to the other person, the payer will cut the tax and then he will pay the other party the remaining amount only. That is called tax deducted at source. So instead of the recipient first of all receiving the income and then completion of previous year and then assessment of that, then calculating tax liability, all this will be done. That has nothing to do with payment. So you have to again understand the difference between accrual concept and cash concept. So here when we talk about assessment, what kind of point we are taking there? Are we talking about payment of tax? No. Assessment of tax is different. That is the process of applying all the provisions of Income Tax Act. Payment of tax is one click away. Anybody can just like that pay tax online anytime. So that is different from assessment. That has to be clear in mind. So wherever possible, wherever required, TDS provisions will apply advance tax provisions will also apply. They have to be applied if applicable. That is also something that we will discuss at a later stage. So these are all the aspects which will be definitely important for us, but not now. Right now, our job is only to know that there is something like that. Our job is to know that yes, there are certain rates of taxes which are not only specified in Annual Finance Act, which are also specified in Income Tax Act also. Then same way, though we say that income of previous year is charged to tax in relevant assessment year, this process is related to assessment. Assessment has nothing to do with payment of tax. Payment of tax can happen as and when the income is earned. How? The income recipient itself will not pay the tax. Payer himself will pay the tax directly to the government on behalf of the recipient of income. That is called TDS. Same way, the recipient of income earners should pay advance tax according to the provisions of the Act as and when they earn the income. So, payment of tax might happen. Once again, don't jump to conclusions. It is must, it is compulsory. Nobody said that. Did we discuss any of that? No. Whether it is required or not, it will be only known when we understand the TDS provisions and advance tax provisions. So if required, they have to be followed. They have to be complied with. That is what this point is telling us. So this is about the overview of understanding of this chapter before entering into the real rates of tax and the steps involved in computation of tax liability. Once again, what is our objective here? Knowing the rates of tax and being able to compute the tax liability of different types of SSEs. Different types of SSEs, tax liability at least we should be able to calculate. So how to calculate that? What steps are involved in that? Go through them one by one here. Steps involved in computing the tax liability. First of all, compute the total income in accordance with the provisions of the Income Tax Act. Are we going to do that now? Now is it possible for us to do that? Absolutely no, we cannot do that, because that is the entire learning process we are going to have in future. That is where all the earlier steps will come. Residential status, heads of income, blah blah, clubbing, blah blah blah. All those things will come. That is a process we know only, but we don't know how to compute total income right now. Sir, how then? It will be given in the question, sir. Already the total income, which is nothing but taxable income, will be given in the question. Whatever that is the starting point for us now. But in reality, that is not the starting point. That is the penultimate point. The one before the last step. What is the last step? That's what we are doing now. First of all, calculating tax liability itself is the last step in the overall process of computation of income and tax liability of persons and SSEs. In that, before doing this step, definitely we need to know how much is the total income. That will be normally given in the problem as far as this topic is concerned. But where our job starts? Our job starts with step 2. Immediately we have to apply this section. You have to remember 288A. 288A is a very generic section, so you have to remember that. So what should we do? The total income shall be rounded off to nearest multiple of rupees 10. That is a provision, compulsory. Why and all you cannot ask. That is what law says. So if you imagine somebody's income is 5,22,533. So 533, we have to round it to 530. So nearest multiple of 10, we have to round it. Imagine if that income is same 5 lakhs whatever 538, then instead of 530 we have to round it to 540. Then a question comes, what if it is 535? If that is the case, then it should be rounded up. So be very clear, when the last digit in the total income is somewhere between 1 to 4, it should be, if it should be 1 to 4, if it is, it should be rounded down. If it is 5 to 9, 5 to 9, then it should be rounded up. So this point has to be remembered also. What is this 1, 2, 4, 5 to 9? The last digit of the total income. Let us, for example, quickly go through this example that we have. We will come to that later anyway, just to understand this provision and application of that. Let us say this guy, Mr. A, has an income of 6,21,533. So where should we start? Should we start with 6,21,533 in our calculations? No. We have to apply 288A and 6,21,530 this will become. Then 12,25,677. What should this become? 12,25,680. Then 8,85,145 should become 8,85,150. 45 should become 50. 4,30,000 is already rounded, nothing to round. This is already rounded, this is rounded. This one has to be rounded. 78,33,235 becomes 240. Same way. 59,17,645 becomes 650. Same way. 72,43,093 becomes 90. Then 92 also becomes 90. Last digits. 68 becomes 70. 21 becomes 20. So if you observe the last two digits and understand what is the last digit, if the last digit is between 1 to 4, then you should round it down. If the last digit is between 5 to 9, you have to round it up. But round it to nearest multiple of what? Rupees 10. So that is section 288A. Must to be applied. No choice. Sir, I forgot. All these things will not be acceptable. This is taxation. Every provision of law, every provision of the act has to be meticulously understood, remembered and applied. Application also should happen perfectly. So that is what we are talking about when it comes to rounding. Of course, the same rounding applies later also. We'll come to that later. So now going back to the steps, total income for us particularly it is already available. So in the example that we have taken, the total income is already given. So that will be given. In reality, that is the last step. So all the entire completion of income tax portion, able to calculate heads of income, everything once that is done, then computation of total income will come. So almost that will be our climax. So we cannot reach there now, but after that what has to happen, that we can do now, because it is all about just application of certain rates of tax given in Annual Finance Act. So total income is already available with us. First step, what our job is to round it to nearest multiple of 10. Then once we have that rounded taxable income, we need to compute the base tax liability using applicable rates of tax. What are those rates of tax? That is what we are going to discuss in this topic. Once we calculated the rates of tax and once we have used the rates of tax to calculate base tax liability, then we have to give rebate under section 87A. This section also you have to remember, but of course only if available. Base tax should be calculated according to the rates of tax, applicable rates of tax as per Finance Act, and after doing that, rebate should be given under section 87A if available. After that, either this or that, both will not happen. Both rebate and surcharge will not be there. Why is that? We will come to know. If rebate is there, yes, it will be given. Rebate is a reduction in the tax, not an addition to the tax. Whereas surcharge is an addition to the tax. If there is a surcharge applicable, then that has to be calculated and added. However, where there is a surcharge, there is a possibility of marginal relief. All these names we will have separate discussion. So what we have here, basically we have total income, first rounding, then base tax liability using the applicable rates of tax. This is the major step, starting step actually. Rebate if applicable to be given, surcharge if applicable to be added, marginal relief if applicable, if available to be given. So Rebate and relief, names themselves indicate they are not increasing the tax liability of the SSE, they are decreasing the tax liability of the SSE. These two are benefits to the SSE. Surcharge is not a benefit to the SSE, it is definitely a burden to the SSE. So, if applicable, surcharge has to be added. If applicable, marginal relief has to be deducted. If applicable, rebate has to be deducted. But understand this, now itself we can understand. Rebate and surcharge both are not possible at the same time. If rebate is there, surcharge is not there. If surcharge is there, rebate is not there. So step 4 and step 5 both are not possible for the same person. That has to be very clearly understood. Then step 6 also is possible only if there is step 5. Imagine if somebody is having rebate, naturally it doesn't have surcharge. When there is no surcharge, there is no possibility of marginal relief. So if surcharge is there is a possibility of marginal relief. Possibility. If it is there or not, that we have to see according to the number that we have in front of us. If available, marginal relief has to be given. And then after doing all these things, this one if applicable, these two if applicable to be done. After doing all this, whatever we get, to that number we have to add health and education cess at the rate of 4%. So after following all these steps, calculating base tax, adding surcharge if any, deducting rebate if any, giving marginal relief if any, we got some number. Adding to that 4% of health and education cess, what we get is basically the tax liability of the SSE. That is the tax liability of the SSE. But is that our final answer? Again, no, it is not our final answer, because there is one more section that is applicable, 288B. And what does that 288B say? The total tax liability shall be rounded off to the nearest multiple of 10 rupees. Again same. So whatever the tax liability that we have calculated, that should be rounded off to the nearest multiple of 10. How do we know that in a nearest multiple of 10? Logic is still the same. Imagine if the tax liability came to some lakhs and thousand something, the last digits are, let us say, 23 rupees. 23 becomes 20. If it is 25, it becomes 30. If it is 28, it becomes 30, like that. If it is 82, it becomes 80. If it is 88, it becomes 90. So round down to the nearest multiple of 10. If the last digit is between 1 to 4, round up to the nearest multiple of 10 if the last digit is 5 to 9. Based on that, rounding is compulsory. Once again, you cannot say I forgot any of these steps. Every step has to be meticulously followed. However, there may be situations where all the steps are not applicable. 4 and 5 in one case, impossible. 4 and 6 also in one case, impossible, because the word marginal relief itself will apply when there is something called surcharge, and when there is something called surcharge, there is nothing called rebate. So 5 and 6 might be there, or 4 might be there, or only 5 might be there, or nothing might be there also. Nothing might be there. There may not be rebate also, there may not be surcharge also, there may not be marginal relief also. All these things are possibilities. So that is why if available, if applicable, if available, that has to be very clearly identified. So base rate of tax is the core competence of computing the tax liability. These things have to be applied carefully according to the actual provisions, and in the given case, how are they going to be useful? This is common. 7th point, adding health and education cess of 4%, there is nothing called if applicable, it is always applicable. Means what? What are the steps we have already calculated? Once the number that we have, which is the tax liability, before the cess is there, adding 4% to that is mandatory, that is compulsorily to be added. That is for the purpose of health and education cess. And we discussed earlier what is a cess. Cess is something that has to be calculated on the tax, and this 4% also we are calculating on what? Are we calculating it on income? No, we are calculating on the tax that is already calculated by following all these steps. On that, over and above it, there is a 4% cess. So these are the steps involved. But this step is not the last step. What is effectively the last step? Rounding off the tax liability is the last step. So rounding off income for us is the first step, we can say. Rounding off the tax liability for us is the last step. These are the steps which we are going to follow. If applicable, 4, 5, 6 will be there. If not applicable, they will not be there. But definitely 2, of course, that also, if it is not a round figure, then we have to round it to nearest multiple of 10. 3 is our core discussion of the topic here now. These 3 are different varieties. We will come to them later. 4%, there is nothing to discuss. Automatically, everything that has been computed using all the steps has to be added with 4% of health and education cess. Then after doing that, if it is not in multiples of 10, we have to round it to the nearest multiple of 10. That is the process that we have to follow. Always keep this in mind. Very important knowledge and very important process that we should follow. That is the application of rates of tax. So this is the general understanding of chargeability. These are the steps involved in the process of computing the tax liability. Now actually we are entering into the provisions related to computation of tax liability, and we should start with that rates which are applicable, and this is what exactly is there in the ICI material also. We can just read that and understand what does it say. Of course these are going to be summarized later, that is already there, but before going to the table type of understanding, let us also understand how to read and understand what the provision says. Let us look at the first point here. The rates of tax for the different classes of SSCs are prescribed by the Annual Finance Act. You know that already. The rates of tax for different classes of SSCs are prescribed by Annual Finance Act. First we are going to talk about individuals, HUF, etc. And what is that etc.? We will come to that. There is all these people: individual, HUF, AOP, BOI and artificial juridical person. For all of them, these rates of tax are applicable. What is this called as? Is a slab rate, and there is a basic exemption limit. What does basic exemption limit means? There is a basic exemption limit of 2,50,000 rupees for individuals now, which means no tax is payable by individuals with a total income of up to 2,50,000 rupees. So anybody who is earning an income of less than 2,50,000 rupees does not need to pay any income tax, because up to 2,50,000 rupees that income is exempt, not at all taxable. So that is called basic exemption limit, that is up to 2,50,000. Now what about the people who are having a total income of more than 2,50,000 but less than 5 lakhs? Any one person will have one income only. All these possibilities are not going to happen for one person. A person, if he has income of less than 2,50,000, nothing is payable as tax. Done. What if a person is having an income of more than 2,50,000 but less than 5 lakhs? Then what? Then what he has to do is he has to pay tax on the total income in excess of 2,50,000 at the rate of 5%. In excess of 2,50,000 at the rate of 5%. What does it mean? So look at this here. Where the total income does not exceed 2,50,000, nil. Where the total income exceeds 2,50,000 but does not exceed 5 lakhs, 5% of the amount by which the total income exceeds 2,50,000. Now let us just take an example for understanding of this, how this is going to be applicable. Let us say some person has an income of 2,22,000. This is his we can say total income. This is 2,22,000, right? This is the total income of the person. Question comes, is there anything that is taxable? What is going to be the tax liability? Simply nil, because there is no tax applicable for incomes less than 2,50,000. So basic exemption limit is 2,50,000. This guy has income less than 2,50,000, so tax liability is nil. Now, another person, let us say, has an income of, say, 3,33,000. Now, 3,33,000 income he has. Is it more than basic exemption limit? Answer is yes. Since he has got income of more than basic exemption limit, there is a tax rate that is applicable. How much is that? 5% of the amount by which the total income exceeds 2,50,000. Means how much is in excess of 2,50,000 here? That has to be calculated. On calculator you can do like this. You can do like 3,33,000 minus 2,50,000. 3,33,000 minus 2,50,000 is going to be how much? That is 83,000. Means this is the income in excess of 2,50,000. That's what we are talking about. In excess of 2,50,000, how much is his income? 83,000. On that, how much is the tax that is payable? You have to calculate on 83,000, that is 5%. So what is the tax here? 4,150. And when we have 4,150 rupees is the calculation according to the slab rate that is available to us. But understand this very carefully. How much of this 5% to be calculated upon? On the amount which exceeds 2,50,000. Whatever that amount may be, according to the situation, that amount might change. So in this case, what was the amount in excess of 2,50,000? It is 83,000. On that 5% means 4,150. This is how to calculate if the income falls in this slab. If the income is less than 2,50,000, there is nothing to calculate. Income tax liability is nil. Now let us take another example for understanding purposes. So taking another example, say 4,44,000. This is the income of a particular SSC, 4,44,000. We are just taking examples, some random numbers. So how much is the income in excess of 2,50,000? So what you should do? First of all, first you should check, is this SSC's income exceeding 2,50,000? Answer is yes. By how much it is exceeding 2,50,000? By how much it is exceeding? Means what is the difference between 4,44,000 and 2,50,000? That is 1,94,000. And on 1,94,000, if you calculate 5%, that's what is this? 9,700. So how should you calculate this? Use the calculator now. You cannot just watch this video. Also you have to take notes of this. At the same time, wherever calculations are there, you have to use the calculator, pen and paper. So 3,33,000 minus 2,50,000 into 5%. That was 4,150. Now how will you do that? 4,44,000 minus 2,50,000, resultant will be 1,94,000 into 5%, that is 9,700. Like this calculation should happen. Now imagine another person has an income of exactly 5 lakhs. Say exactly 5 lakhs. Then what? Then what is the excess he has? Excess of 2,50,000 on 5 lakhs is how much? Naturally that is 2,50,000 only. And what is going to be the tax liability for him? 12,500. Of course, this is not the final tax liability. Nobody is talking about final tax liability. There are still more steps to be done. We can call this base tax liability. According to rates of tax, this is the base tax. So if the income of the SSC is 5 lakhs, then income which is exceeding 2,50,000 itself is 2,50,000, on which 5% means 12,500. So that is what we are talking about when the income of an SSC is between 2,50,000 and 5 lakhs. Exactly 2,50,000 also income tax rate is nil. So you need to use these words very carefully and remember them very carefully. When we say basic exemption limit is 2,50,000, individuals with a total income of up to 2,50,000 doesn't have to pay any tax. Up to means what? Including 2,50,000. If somebody has exactly 2,50,000, nothing is payable as tax. Somebody has more than, not equal to, more than 2,50,000, but less than 5 lakhs, not equal to. Once again, so if there is less than 5 lakhs or more than 2,50,000 but up to 5 lakhs, in that case, where the rate of tax applicable will be 5%. So whatever the actual income is minus 2,50,000 into 5% if you do, that will be giving us the tax liability of the SSC. However, there is a twist point here. For resident individuals in this slab, they will enjoy a full rebate of tax under section 87A. So for resident individuals only, there is something called rebate that is applicable. As we already have this in the step, this is what is important in the form of rebate under section 87A. And naturally, name indicates it is not a burden, it is actually a benefit to the SSCs. First, let us see what does the section say, then we can understand it easily by looking at the numbers. In order to provide tax relief to the individual taxpayers who are in the 5% tax slab, and who are in the 5% tax slab, those people who have income exceeding 2,50,000 but not exceeding 5 lakhs. Those are in 5% tax slab. In order to give some kind of relief to them, generally in real life we call them middle class, the law will not define any of that. General middle class, typical type of reasonably earning people, not so rich people. To give some relief to them, section 87A provides for a rebate from the tax payable by an SSC, very important point, being an individual resident in India. So these are the conditions. 87A is applicable, yes. Possible to be taken as a benefit, yes. By whom? Not everybody. Only individual, that too resident in India. In other words, for a non-resident, 87A benefit is not applicable. You cannot claim a benefit of rebate under section 87A if the SSC is a non-resident. Same way, if the SSC is not an individual, imagine if the SSC is HUF, are the rates of tax applicable same? Yes, rates of tax are same. These rates are applicable for individual, HUF, AOP, BOI and artificial juridical person. For everything, for everybody, the same rates of tax are applicable. However, rebate is not applicable for all types of SSCs. It is given only for individuals. So for an individual resident, somebody can claim a rebate if when the total income does not exceed 5 lakhs. Naturally. Why? Because those people who are in the 5% slab are those whose total income will not exceed 5 lakhs. How will it exceed 5 lakhs if they are in 5% slab? Not possible. So the people who are eligible for 87A, be very clear, are those people who are individuals and that too resident, having an income of not exceeding 5 lakhs rupees. Then there is a rebate. And how much is the rebate? The rebate shall be equal to the amount of income tax payable on the total income for any assessment year, or an amount of 12,500 rupees, whichever is less. So what is the maximum rebate available? 12,500. Once again, be very clear, we are not talking about a flat rebate of 12,500. That is the maximum rebate available. If the actual amount of income tax payable is less than 12,500, rebate available will be that much only. Whatever the rate of, whatever the amount of income tax that is payable, that itself will become the rebate. So how much is the rebate here? Simply that is the amount of either income tax payable on the total income or 12,500, whichever is less. Whichever is less is the amount of rebate that is available. So let us apply this now in the example that we have taken. So for the first person who had an income of 2,22,000, nothing was taxable, so no question of rebate. When anyway the base tax liability itself is zero, why should we give any rebate to him? Not required. So there is no applicability of rebate for this guy. What about this guy? The one who has 3,33,000 income, he has a base tax liability of 4,150. Is rebate applicable? Yes. Of course, only when that person is a resident individual. Assuming all of them are resident individuals, is rebate applicable for this person who has 3,33,000 income? Yes. And what is the rebate amount of rebate available here? Can he get 12,500? Not possible. There cannot be a negative tax liability. Not possible. How much can be the rebate here? Rebate can be exactly equal to what the amount of tax is. So there can be a rebate of 4,150 only. So what is the rebate available to him is equivalent to the amount of tax. And finally, what is the tax liability? Nothing. That is going to be the same. Same way, for a person who has 4,44,000 income, what was the tax liability? Base tax 9,700. So 4,44,000 minus 2,50,000 into 5%. That is 9,700. If you calculate, then you will understand. 9,700 is the base tax liability. How much rebate can be given here also? Not possible to be given any other amount. It can be maximum of how much? 12,500. Since 9,700 is less than that, definitely that's going to be the rebate available. So what is going to be the tax payable in this case? Also nil. Why is that? Because the amount of tax payable is 9,700. Rebate is also available since the tax payable did not exceed 12,500. Here the rebate of 9,700 is available. How about this case? Same. In this case also the rebate of 12,500 will be available because that is the maximum rebate. And when this is possible? When the SSC has an exact income of 5 lakhs rupees. If the SSC has exact income of 5 lakhs rupees, in that case there is a possibility of getting a rebate of full rebate 12,500. Of course, this 12,500 is the maximum amount of rebate. If the amount of tax payable is less than that, entire amount of such tax payable will be given as rebate. But ultimately, what is the point here? In all these cases, the tax liability of the SSC is nil. Nil. Now can we conclude one thing? If the SSC is a resident individual, the SSC need not pay 1 rupee tax also if his total income does not exceed 5 lakhs. Because even if his income exceeds 2,50,000 but does not exceed 5 lakhs, even though there is a 5% tax that has to be calculated as base tax, because of rebate under section 87A, entire such tax liability will be waived off and ultimately nothing will be payable by him as income tax. However, this rebate is possible to be given only to resident individuals. That has to be always kept in mind. If resident individuals are there as an SSC, then rebate under 87A up to a maximum of 12,500 rupees can be given. Very, very important section, that is section 87A. That is section 87A. What are the conditions? SSC should be an individual who should be a resident in India and his total income should not exceed 5 lakhs. How much is the rebate available? Either the income tax that is payable or 12,500, whichever is less. That's what we applied here. What was the income tax payable in this case? 4,150. So 4,150 or 12,500, whichever is less. Which is less? 4,150. So we gave a rebate of 4,150 only. Here also 9,700 is the base tax. Rebate could be either the base tax or 12,500, whichever is less. In these two, which is less? 9,700 is only less. In this case, full rebate is there since the tax liability is also 12,500. In any case, one point, always common sense point to be noted, the rebate can never exceed the tax liability that we already calculated. Rebate exceeding tax liability is impossible. That cannot happen. That doesn't make sense. The law is giving you a rebate so that some benefit is given to you. With that benefit, you cannot say government should give money to me. Not possible. So, no, you don't have to give any money to the government in the form of income tax if there is rebate available. However, such rebate can never exceed the tax liability of the SSE. That too, it cannot exceed 12,500 rupees also. That is the maximum. Why? Because of the limit of 5 lakhs. And how that 12,500 has come? That is basically the 5% of the difference between 2,50,000 and 5 lakhs. It will be always 12,500 only, it will not change. Because difference between 2,50,000 and 5 lakhs will be always 2,50,000. 5% of 2,50,000 is 12,500. So this 12,500 is a fixed amount. And that is the maximum amount of rebate somebody can claim who is a resident individual. That is first slab, we can say, of 5% after the nil slab, that is basic exemption limit of 2,50,000. Now, going forward with the next level of slabs, the total income between 5 lakhs and 10 lakhs rupees attracts 20% of rate of tax. So, another person, again I am repeating, same SSE will not have all slabs applicable for him. One SSE will have one income. One income will be falling in any of these categories. Maybe it is less than 2,50,000, maybe it is between 2,50,000 and 5 lakhs. Now what are we talking about? If the income is between 5 lakhs and 10 lakhs, it is more than 5 lakhs but less than 10 lakhs. In that case, what is the tax rate applicable? That is at the rate of 20%. 20% on what? 20% on the income minus 5 lakhs. That has to be kept in mind. Income minus 5 lakhs. In that slab, tax rate is 20% plus. Already there is an earlier slab of 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs. And what is the tax on that? That is 12,500. So how this can be calculated in an easy manner? This is how it is easily calculated. So where the total income exceeds 5 lakhs but does not exceed 10 lakhs, basically you start with 12,500. What is this 12,500? That is the 5% of difference between 5 lakhs and 2,50,000, which is already a standard amount. So this 12,500 is already there, which is part of this slab, plus 20% of the amount by which the total income exceeds 5 lakhs. So now when we have another case, something like an SSE who is having an income of, let us say, more than 5 lakhs we need, right? Let us say an SSE is having an income of 5 lakhs 55,000, just for example. So where is he falling? He is falling in this category where his income is between 5 lakhs and 10 lakhs. Where his income is between 5 lakhs and 10 lakhs, that is 5 lakhs 55,000 his income. Now, what should we do here? This is how we have to calculate. First of all, what is the limit here we have to talk about? Which income is exceeding what? Earlier, what we talked about? By how much the income exceeded 2,50,000. That's what we calculated in these things. By how much the income has exceeded 2,50,000. Now what we have to calculate? By how much the income exceeds not 2,50,000 but 5 lakhs. So by how much the income has exceeded 5 lakhs here? That is 55,000. By how much the income has exceeded 5 lakhs here? 55,000. On that, how much percentage of tax to be calculated? Calculated the rate of 20%. On that 20% means 11,000. But that is not enough. This plus 12,500, which is related to the earlier slab, this is going to be the tax liability, base tax liability of this SSE who has 5 lakhs 55,000 as income. Understand this very carefully once again. If an SSE has an income of 5,55,000, how much of that income is exceeding 5 lakhs rupees is 55,000. That will be subjected to a rate of tax of 20%. That is 20% of 55,000. Then add 12,500 to that, you will get the final tax liability. Why? Because this 20% is only on the income exceeding 5 lakhs. There was income earlier which was between 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs also, amount of which is 2,50,000. Rate of tax on that was 5%. 5% of 2,50,000 is 12,500. So add 12,500. That's what is mentioned here, if you remember. What is this way of calculating? 12,500 plus 20% of the amount by which the total income exceeds 5 lakhs. That is how this has to be calculated. Now take another example. Let us say somebody has an income of say 7,77,000. Same step. First take by how much the income is exceeding 5 lakhs. By how much the income is exceeding 5 lakhs here? 2,77,000. Then on that excess of 5 lakhs, excess over 5 lakhs, you need to apply a rate of 20% tax. Then after that you have to add 12,500 to that. Basically, what is the amount of tax that is to be payable in this case? 67,900. Are we again calling about as final tax liability? No, we are talking all of these things as base tax only. Earlier base tax was this 4,150, 9,700 and 12,500. Because of rebate, the tax liability was nil. Here is rebate applicable in these two cases? Answer is no. Why? Since the income has exceeded 5 lakhs. If you remember the rebate provision of section 87A, the condition is income should not exceed 5 lakhs. The moment income exceeded 5 lakhs in these cases, forget about rebate. Rebate you just have to ignore. Nothing to even think about rebate. No rebate. All normal provisions applicable. Here, what is the amount of income which is exceeding 5 lakhs? That has to be first calculated, which is 55,000 in this case, which is 2,77,000 in this case. Then on that 20% has to be calculated, which are these numbers, plus 12,500 to be added, so that we get the tax liability. So that's what is mentioned in rates also. 12,500 plus 20% of the income by which the total income exceeds 5 lakhs. So simply on calculators, if you calculate whatever the income is given minus 5 lakhs into 20% plus 12,500, like that you have to do. Now let us take another just example. Say 9,99,000, somebody has an income. Same steps, do this one. 9,99,000 is the income of the SSE. Minus 5 lakhs, how much you will get? 4,99,000. On that calculate 20%. How much is that? 99,800. On that add 12,500. How much is that? 1,12,300. That is the base tax liability of this SSE who has an income of 9,99,000. That is the base tax liability once again, without looking at any other things. Of course, there is no rebate here anyway. There is no surcharge also. We'll come to the surcharge portion later. Rebate though is not there definitely because the income exceeded 5 lakhs. And cess is always there. 4% has to be added on this always. So that will be also there. If you add 4% to that, or you can say into 104%, directly adding 4% to that, this is going to be the final tax liability after adding 4% to these amounts. So final tax liability of these three SSEs will be this much. So base tax liability plus health and education cess of 4%. In between, there is no 87A here, there is no surcharge also, there is no marginal relief also in these cases of examples. That is why directly we can add cess of 4% in these cases. So if the income of the SSE is below 5 lakhs and if that person is a resident individual, we don't need to worry about calculation. The tax liability of that person is automatically going to be nil. Nothing is going to be payable because of rebate under section 87A. What if that person is not a resident? Then you have to calculate. Imagine this guy is a non-resident. Then 9,700 he has to pay plus cess 4% anyway will be applicable. So these rebates will not be there in case of non-residents, and also those SSEs who are not individuals, namely HUF, AOP, BOI or artificial juridical person. For all of them rates of tax are same. but rebate is not applicable for all of them, only available for individuals, that too who are residents. That is first slab after the basic exemption limit, between 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs. 5% rate of tax is applicable. Between 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, 20% rate of tax is applicable, plus 12,500, which is related to the earlier slab. Now moving on to the next thing. What if the income is between 10 lakhs to infinity? In other words, if the income is more than 10 lakhs, what is the rate of tax that is applicable is 30% on the amount of income which exceeds 10 lakhs. Once again, how much of the income is exceeding 10 lakhs? That has to be first calculated, on which 30% has to be calculated, plus 1,12,500 has to be added. Once again, understand and remember these numbers. Why this 12,500 earlier? That is 5% of difference between 2,50,000 and 5 lakhs. Since the SC has already crossed this entire difference between 5 lakhs and 2,50,000 is going to be 2,50,000, on which 5% is 12,500. Now we are talking about 1,12,500. In this 12,500 is anyway there. If an SSC is having a total income of more than 10 lakhs, he has already crossed this level. He has also crossed this level. He has reached this level where his income is more than 10 lakhs. So 12,500 anyway will be there. Plus this also will be added now. What is this? Difference between 10 lakhs and 5 lakhs. Understand that? What is the difference between 5 lakhs and 10 lakhs? 5 lakhs. And on 5 lakhs, what is the rate applicable here? 20%. What is 20% on 5 lakhs? 1 lakh. So 1 lakh plus 12,500. That is standard here. Directly, every time you don't have to do all these things. Directly you can take 1,12,500 plus 30% of the amount by which the income exceeds 10 lakhs rupees. That is how income tax has to be calculated if the SSC has a total income of more than 10 lakhs. Once again, let us take the example here. More than 10 lakhs is the SSC's total income. So this first case is a different case where the SSC has an income of less than 2,50,000, automatically nil. Where the SSC has income between 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs, then you have to calculate tax liability, base tax liability. Then check if rebate of 87A is available. Available, then tax liability is still nil. Not available, then whatever the base tax plus 4% cess will become the tax liability. However, if the income of the SSC exceeds 5 lakhs but does not exceed 10 lakhs, then you have to calculate income tax at the rate of 20% on the amount which exceeds 5 lakhs plus 12,500, and in this case no rebate will be available. No surcharge also is applicable in this case. In the next case, where the income of the SSC is exceeding 10 lakhs, let us take some simple numbers. Let us say SSC has a income of say 12 lakhs. SC has an income of say, just we'll have these numbers, 12 lakhs. If the SC has an income of 12 lakhs, then by how much this is exceeding 10 lakhs? By how much this is exceeding 10 lakhs? Difference between these two is naturally 2 lakhs. By how much it is exceeding 10 lakhs? It is 2 lakhs. On that, how much percentage to be added now? Now it is 30%. The highest slab is 30%. So 30% on the amount which exceeds 10 lakhs. 60,000 is there. But to that we have to add 1,12,500. To that we have to add 1,12,500. Then we get the final base tax liability. Of course, after that we need to add cess also. So taking 104% means adding 4% only, no? So what is after cess? This is the final tax liability of the SSC if the income of SSC is 12 lakhs. Once again, How to calculate this? Observe carefully. You calculate it on calculators. 12 lakhs minus 10 lakhs into 30% plus 1,12,500 plus 4%. That is how it will be. You can write these steps on the paper and do one by one, no problem. No need to do everything at once. But once you practice more and more, you will be able to do them quickly. Right now, don't focus on speed, focus on accuracy. Speed will automatically come when you practice more. If you focus on speed now, you will go for the accuracy will go for a toss. So that is not what is the purpose here. Purpose here is everybody should know how to calculate the tax liability, basically the base tax liability. If the income is below 2,50,000 nil, if the income is between 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs, income minus 2,50,000 into 5%. That's all. Of course, if rebate is there, rebate is there. Next, what if income is above 5 lakhs but not exceeding 10 lakhs? Then whatever the income minus 5 lakhs into 20% plus 12,500. That is how the procedure is. Next, what if the income is more than 10 lakhs? Then income minus 10 lakhs into 30% plus 1,12,500 plus 4% is always there. Here also if required. 4% is always there. That should be the last step before rounding if required. So this is how to calculate. Now let us take some more examples. Say somebody has an income of say 18 lakhs. Then how much will be the tax liability? Calculate it carefully. You have to calculate difference between 18 lakhs and 10 lakhs. By how much the income is exceeding 10 lakhs? It is exceeding the 10 lakhs by 8 lakhs rupees. 8 lakhs rupees, what should we multiply with? 30%. We have to multiply with 30%. Then what should we do? We should add 1,12,500 to that. Then we should also add 4% cess to that. Then we get 3,66,600. This is how income tax liability can be calculated. What if the SC has an income of, let us say just for 22 lakhs 22,222. If this is the amount given, what is the first step? First we should round it to 22 lakhs 22,220 as per 288A. Then you need to find out the difference. You need to find out the difference between income and 10 lakhs. That will be this much. On that, same 30%. On that, add 1,12,500. Then add 4%. So finally the tax liability will be 4,98,333. Then again, what should you do actually here? 4,98,330. We should round it. So we should round this number also of tax liability. Earlier also, wherever the tax liability has this, they have to be rounded to the nearest multiples of 10. So the 70,616 earlier becomes 70,620. 1,16,792 becomes 1,16,790. It should be rounded up. This should be rounded down. This also should be rounded down to the nearest multiple of 10. So rounding is a normal exercise, and we do that. But it has to be done. It cannot be forgotten. So this is the base tax liability calculation using the rates of tax mentioned in the Act. This is the table that you should remember. Definitely, this is the one everybody should have in mind. This is the rates of tax table up to 2,50,000 nil, between 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs 5%, between 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs 20% plus 12,500, more than 10 lakhs. Whatever the income is in excess of 10 lakhs, on that 30% plus 1,12,500. This table you have to remember. These are the rates of tax related to individuals, HUF, AOP, BOI, artificial juridical person. In addition to that, you need to remember section 87A, rebate applicable only for resident individuals and those who have income not exceeding 5 lakhs. That is applicable for those people. If it is applicable, then such rebate can be given to the SSE, and tax liability in general, whenever rebate is given, the tax liability will be nil only. Naturally, when rebate is there, tax liability is nil only, no other option. That is how rebate will be there. And normally we can also conclude, if the SSE has income of not exceeding 5 lakhs and that SSE is a resident individual, tax payable by that person is nil. Nothing has to be paid as tax, because under normal circumstances his tax liability would be 12,500. However, rebate of 12,500 is available, so finally the tax liability is nil. That is the point to be noted in relation to section 87A. And rates of tax over and above 5 lakhs but not exceeding 10 lakhs. That rate for that slab is 20%. Above 10 lakhs, the excess of 10 lakhs, such income is subjected to a tax of 30%. So these are the rates of tax applicable. So the tax rates have to be applied on the total income to arrive at the income tax liability. That's what we are doing. And this also we know for certain special incomes like long-term capital gains, lottery income, specified short-term capital gains, etc., slab rates are not applicable. These incomes are taxable at special rates of taxation. While slab rates are given in the Annual Finance Act, special rates are contained in the Income Tax Act itself. That's what we were talking about here also. Normally the rates of tax are specified in Annual Finance Act. These special rates are all specified in Income Tax Act. So that is the rates of tax for individuals, HUF, AOP, BOI or artificial juridical person, with section 87A rebate and with health and education cess also. Whenever we have the income tax as increased by surcharge if any, or as reduced by rebate under section 87A if applicable, should be further increased by an additional surcharge called as health and education cess. Don't use the word surcharge here, use the word cess. And what type of cess this is? Health and education cess. This is the word you have to use fully. Health and education cess. And at the rate of what? 4%. On what? On the income tax that is calculated after increasing that with surcharge or reducing it with rebate. After that, there will be a health and education cess of 4% of the income tax plus a surcharge if applicable. However, practically one more point we can note. If there is a rebate under section 87A, anyway, there is going to be no tax liability. When there is zero tax liability, 4% of 0 is going to be 0. So there is not going to be any cess in case there is a rebate of section 87A. If rebate is not there, then definitely after adding the surcharge, you have to add 4% of income tax liability as health and education cess. We'll come to this surcharge in the later class, but as of now we should know how to calculate the base tax liability of individuals particularly, and we should be very thorough with these steps, and also how the rates of tax are applied here. You take these examples and practice them again and again in order to get these answers. Of course, we did not do rounding here, but ideally rounding also has to happen according to 288B. Particularly in this case and this case, rounding is compulsory. All others are already rounded numbers. This is how base tax has to be calculated. Rebate has to be calculated in particular circumstances. Cess has to be added in all circumstances. Always cess has to be added. That is the base tax liability in relation to individuals. With that, we can conclude this session in relation to individuals normally and how to calculate the base tax liability. Of course, after adding cess also wherever we have to add, except in this case we have added cess here also and here also. So calculate these things and practice them, and in the next session we discuss about what is surcharge and how much surcharges are applicable and how they have to be calculated, and what are the other rates of tax which are applicable in case of senior citizens aged 60 years and above, super senior citizens aged 80 years and above, and not only that, how the income tax liability has to be calculated for other types of SSCs like firm, LLP, etc., cooperative society and company. So all these things are to be discussed in the upcoming sessions, and we will do an example also taking different types of incomes, and we should practice more and more number of questions in order to become experts of calculating income tax liability of SSCs using the rates of tax. With that, we can conclude today's session, and we will come with some more crucial aspects in the next session. Till then, bye bye, take care. Thank you.